compañías más importantes alrededor del mundo en el salvamento de naufragios y hoy viene a deleitarnos de los Estados Unidos con una charla referente a las monedas encontradas en el Nuestra Señora de Atocha de la flota de 1622. También quiero darle las gracias a Carol Tedesco porque ha estado documentando y continuará documentando este evento por medio de sus fotografías. Por favor, quiero que le den la bienvenida a Carol Tedesco. Muchas gracias.
In the first line of his paper, titled The Early Lima Mint, 1568 to 1572, presented at the October 1988 Coinage of the Americas Conference at the American Numismatic Society in New York, our colleague Eduardo Dargent wrote, "The study of the origin of the Lima Mint has been difficult due to misleading information which has been carried forward from one author to another." 33 years later, this observation still holds true and applies to more than just the Lima Mint. Incorrect, incomplete, or misleading information perpetuated from author to author, along with the spread of urban myths, likewise resulted in confusion and inaccuracies concerning the Potosí Mint and several of its assayers. The discovery of the lower hull section of the Nuestra Señora de Atocha by Treasure Salvers, Inc. in 1985 provided an unprecedented number of specimens from both the Lima and Potosí and other mints to document and study. It was the most mammoth Spanish colonial coin curation project ever undertaken, and it was performed using the available numismatic publications of the times as reference guides, along with the guidance of some of the leading numismatists of the day. Because of the aforementioned widely disseminated misinformation, some of which was based on theory and some on assumptions, a relevant number of Atocha coins were misattributed in 1985 and in ensuing years. Of course, the published misinformation did not impact only coins recovered from the Atocha and other Florida 1622 fleet shipwrecks. It impacted attributions for all Potosí and Lima Mint coins of that period, no matter their provenience. Examples include Philip II era coins struck with the assayer initial C, attributed erroneously to the La Plata Mint, Philip II era coins with the assayer initial B to the Lima Mint, for which there is to date no known supporting documentation, also to the Lima Mint coins with assayer initials M and L, and also attributed to Lima shield-type assayer R coins. Additionally, there are Potosí Mint coins of 1617 and 18 bearing a monogrammed assayer initial mistakenly attributed to Baltasar Ramos Laceta, a person that Kurt Dim had reported in his 1988 Coinage of the Americas Conference paper as already being deceased by that time. I'll begin with our current evidence-based documentation and then explain the events that occurred so many years ago that resulted in the misattributions. The Lima Mint and its assayers. The Lima Mint began producing pillars and wave-style silver coins struck with initial R for Alonso Rincon in September of 1568 and paused activity in late 1569 relative to an investigation of mint irregularities. On October 23, 1570, Viceroy Don Francisco de Toledo appointed Zines Martinez as Rincon's successor, so it would be around this time that the initial X replaced R on the pillars-type coins. As a result of a royal decree issued in 1570, in 1572 the Lima Mint ceased the striking of pillar-style coins and implemented new dies featuring the Habsburg shield. So now, Zines Martinez initial X appeared on the Lima Mint's new shield-style coins, and did so until the mint stopped production later that same year. So, X takes us through the transition from pillars to shield. The mint reopened in 1577, now with Diego de la Torre as assayer, only to close yet again in 1587. In addition to the assayer initial D, rendered as a small O above D, De la Torre coins introduced the feature of an elegant six-pointed star, as represented in the city arms. Research conducted by John J. Tepasquet and Herbert S. Klein, published in 1982, reveals that Lima mint production resumed for a period in 1592 and then ceased again the same year. While it has been somewhat assumed that Diego de la Torre was the acting assayer for the small 1592 minting, a 2011 article brought to my attention by our colleague Jorge Proctor introduces the possibility of an unidentified assayer using the initial I and includes a photo of one of 3 quarter-real specimens that Jose Maria Jimenez Alvarez was aware of when he wrote his article. While some perceive the presence of the I and absence of a D as likely to be a die carving error, the 2 specimens that I have seen in photos appear not to have been struck with the same die, which makes the prospect of a die carving error seem less likely. Following the short production of 1592, the Lima mint did not reopen again until the late 1650s, long after the sinking of the 1622 fleet. And here we have Table 1, which documents our confirmed and our one suspected Lima mint assayer during these years of operations, with R and X first appearing on pillars-type coins, followed by the transition to the shield type, and the possible presence of an assayer with the initial I. Now we pause for a very brief stop in La Plata. D'Argent relates that in 1572, City of La Plata officials presented Viceroy Toledo with a persuasive argument to move minting operations from Lima to their own city, a proposal that not surprisingly was opposed by the Lima Audiencia. Soon, however, the move did take place. Cunieri reported a probanza, authored after the fact by former Lima mint assayer Rincon, that places him in La Plata during this time, and where Jorge Proctor reports that Rincon served in the dual role of assayer and die carver. The La Plata mint episode turned out to be extremely short-lived, and in December of 1573, wheels were already in motion to close it and start another mint in Potosí. By early 1574, the La Plata mint was closed, with no record of any assayer other than Rincon having served there. The Potosí mint and its assayers. In 1545, a mountain of silver ore was discovered high in the south-central Andes Mountains, still the largest known silver deposit in the world, Cerro Rico de Potosí. With the closing of the La Plata mint, Alonso Rincon was once again tasked to assist in opening a new mint in Potosí, which in early 1574 began issuing silver coins in the crowned shield style, struck with Rincon's initial R. The next 2 documented Potosí assayers are an unidentified individual using the initial M and Juan Ballesteros Narvaez, whose contract, as Dim reported in 1988, specified that he was free to use alternates to fill in for him when he was absent from the mint. Evidence of Ballesteros and his alternates' comings and goings can be seen in assayer initial erasures and overstrikes, as you see here on the lower half of the slide. The following table represents a progression of Potosí assayers, along with attendant notes and citations, from the year of the mint's opening until 1622, the year the Atocha and other Tierra Firme fleet ships sank off of Florida. Particulars to note are, while Potosí mint coins struck in the reign of Philip III do bear an ordinal number, those struck in the reign of Philip II do not. Also, prior to 1617, dates did not appear on Potosí mint coins. This absence of dates is one of the key reasons it has been a challenge for researchers to establish specific assayer tenures. Also, assayers working during the reign of Philip II continued into that of Philip III, So it's not always possible to determine specifically in which reign transitional coins were struck. As you view the Potosí Mint assayer tables, please note that circa means approximate or nearly. So while some assayer years are confirmed, circa designations are estimates. Our old friend Alonso Rincon apparently served in Potosí for just a short period of time. As Cunietti documented, he was deceased or had vacated his post by sometime in 1576. Though M coins are rare, they are well documented. The existence of M over Rincon's R is reported by Sedgwick in his book, The Practical Book of Cobbs. Juan Ballesteros was a documented Potosí assayer of many years, with coins spanning the reigns of Philip II and Philip III. The earliest issues with initial B can reasonably be assumed to be Ballesteros, who D'Argent reports as documented working in the mint in an unspecified role in 1575. After years of research and conjecture, two of Ballesteros' mysterious alternates have been identified and confirmed. Alonso Lopez Barriales, using the initial L, and Cristobal Ruiz Vizcaino, using the initial C. The known 1586 to 1589 assayer Juan Alvarez Reynaltes has been something of a touchstone for many decades, separating what I call the first early periods of Potosí coin issues from the later ones. And through die design changes and initial overstrikes, we are able to easily follow Ballesteros from the pre-assayer A period to the post-assayer A period. Also, documentation tells us that Hernando Ballesteros, brother to Juan, alternately substituted, also using the initial B until at least 1603. Sometime after the period of assayer A, we know that Baltasar Ramos Laceta began alternating with Ballesteros, using a small monogram as his assayer mark. Following the Philip II to Philip III transition, the ordinal 3 was added to Potosí coin dies, with Ballesteros and Ramos Laceta continuing to alternate until sometime before 1612, at which time a single R for Ramos Laceta replaced the former small monogram. Other key items to notice in this period are several discoveries by Jorge Proctor, including the year of death for Baltasar Ramos Laceta in 1612, the correct identity of the assayer M as Juan Sanchez Mejia, not the previous widely published Juan Munoz, and the identity of the assayer using the PAL monogram, which we will circle back to shortly. Juan Jimenez de Tapia brings us up to the sinking of the 1622 fleet, though he continued to work in the mint for some years to follow. Misattributions, the backstory. So now we're going to talk about the misattributions and how they occurred. Easily the most pervasive misinformation to impact Lima and Potosí coin attributions resulted from a study undertaken prior to the 1970s by Dr. E. A. Selshop, in which he sought to determine which New World shield-type coins were produced at which mint, Potosí, Lima, or La Plata, during the Philip II period. One thing that complicated his and others' attribution attempts was that the coins of each of these three mints display the mint mark P for Peru, and as we know, none minted during this period include a date. The early Philip II period coins in question were those bearing the assayer initials R, X, M, B, L, C, and D. Selshop's approach to resolving these questions was to undertake an in-depth examination of coin features and characteristics. As a result of this approach, he posited that the coins of early assayers using initials R, X, M, B, L, and D were all issued from the Lima Mint. Diego de la Torre is the only Lima mint assayer that Sell Shop noted as confirmed by documentation. Concerning the first coins of Lima, he correctly surmised that the initial R most probably stands for Alonso Rincon. There are no images of Zines Martinez pillar-style coins in Sell Shop's book. They are exceedingly rare, and he seems not to have been aware of their existence at the time of his study. As documentation has shown, Zines Martinez replaced Rincon in Lima before the transition to shield-style coins. So, Sell Shop was incorrect in attributing Rincon shield-style coins to Lima. Sell Shop did not place Rincon in Potosí at all, and he believed that X and M assayer initials both belonged to Zines Martinez, and that coins with either of these initials would belong to the Lima Mint. Sell Shop also proposed two separate B assayers, one working in Lima and the other in Potosí at about the same time, and that one of these replaced Zines Martinez in Lima around 1573 or 1574. But there is to date no documentary evidence to support the presence of an assayer using the initial B at the Lima Mint. Coins with D struck on top of X are known to exist. This also strongly suggests there was not a B assayer working at the Lima Mint in between Zines Martinez in 1572 and Diego de la Torre beginning in 1577. Otherwise, we would see a B struck on top of X and a D struck on top of B. Sedgwick's book, The Practical Book of Cobbs, reports the existence of assayer initial M struck over an earlier shield type R, and Paoletti's 8 Reals Cobbs of Potosí records an L struck over M, both indicating that early assayer M coins belong to the Potosí, not the Lima Mint. Because it was known that die tools had been transferred from Lima to La Plata and eventually to Potosí, Sell Shop also posited that coins with assayer initial C replacing B, which he had attributed to Lima, indicated La Plata provenience. But there is no record of any assayer other than Alonso Rincon having served at La Plata. Sell Shop's study was first published in 1971. It was an extensive and impressive study that to the naked eye would appear to make a great deal of sense. Other authors perpetuated his meticulously presented attributions, and an audience, hungry for information, consumed it. If one were to summarize to a fine point, it was Sell Shop's incorrect attribution of Rincon's shield-style coins to Lima, and then, in domino fashion, those of M, B, and L, plus C to La Plata, that was the catalyst behind years of misattributions published by respected authors internationally, up to and past the millennium, and which impacted coin cataloging worldwide, including that which occurred during the years of greatest Atosha coin curation volume. In her articles, Captain Sandy McKinney, one of the original and more prominent of the early Atosha and Santa Margarita coin curators, clearly conveys the weight and relevance ascribed to Sell Shop's attributions, and this is particularly noticeable when she describes visual cues used to assign a Lima or Potosí provenience for assayer B coins. Later, common misattribution occurred with Potosí mint coins of 1617 and 1618, which were widely attributed for many years to Baltasar Ramos Laceta. It's clear this assumption occurred because some of the 1617, 1618 period coins bear a small monogram that appears much like ones seen on Philip II era Ramos Laceta coins. This credit to Ramos Laceta of Philip III era monogrammed coins caught my attention early in my numismatic career. I had read Kurt Dim's 1988 ANS conference paper, and it reported Ramos Laceta as being deceased by the year 1616, a circumstance that would have made it fairly challenging for him to serve as a Potosí assayer in 1617 and 18. Jorge Proctor later confirmed his year of death as 1612. But Ramos Laceta wasn't the only assayer credited with ownership of the 1617-1618 monogram, which over the years, particularly in its larger and more dramatic rendering, was alternately interpreted as PA, RL, PAR, PARL, ARL, and PAL. The mystery was resolved in 2014 by Proctor, who discovered archival evidence connecting assayer Pedro Martin de Palencia, PAL, to the Potosí Mint from late 1617 into 1618. Perhaps the most entertaining misinformation to become attached to a Potosí assayer concerns Juan Jiménez de Tapia and a popular legend that has labeled him personally responsible for a series of coins that display a variety of reversed and inverted elements. These include inverted lions and castles on the coin reverse, reverse upper shields, reverse lower shields, reversed mint marks, reversed letters in the coin legend, a variety of these combined, plus some with skewed alignment of lions and castles. Not only does legend hold Tapia personally responsible for the anomalies, it concludes with him being executed by beheading on account of them. The source of this lore? An article that appeared in a 1992 issue of The Numismatist, written by A. Torrey McLean and titled The Case of the Dyslexic Mintworker. McLean, in fact, actually presented the known historic circumstances accurately. In his article, the intriguing irregular features do appear on coins of more than just assayer Tapia, and the dies used to manufacture them were not described as having been crafted by Tapia himself. McLean does reference an execution that took place in 1649, but does not portray Tapia as the one who was executed. But that is the way of urban legend. Fewer than 10 words out of what were probably more than 1,000 reverberated in the imaginations of some readers. Dyslexic mintworker, Juan Jiménez de Tapia, and executed. And a mythology was sparked and took flight, passing from one narrator to another, in whole or in part, up to the present day. Thank you for attending my presentation for Cartagena 2021, the third International Convention of Historians and Numismatists. Printed copies of my paper will be available soon at Amazon.com.
And I thank you for coming to my presentation. Thank you.